Timestamps can be found in the description. But anyways, guys, today we're going to talk about the movie Fresh. This movie can be found on Hulu. I thought this film was very well acted. I thought, like, Sebastian Stan did his best American Psycho impersonation and put a little bit, like, it felt to me very Dexter meets American Psycho. But I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if you dug this film, if not, tell me how I'm wrong by the end of this video. Anyways, let's jump right into the short plot, and then we'll jump directly into the Wikipedia deep dive. The horrors of modern dating are seen through the eyes of a young woman who is battling to survive her new boyfriend's unusual appetites. We have Sebastian Stan playing the main male lead, and we have Daisy Edgar Jones playing the main female lead. Let's jump directly into the Wiki deep dive. I kind of gave like a brief what I thought about the film there, so I don't really have to continue doing that. So let's jump right into it, shall we? Noah, a woman from Portland, is increasingly disillusioned with online dating and the rude men she interacts with. One day at the supermarket, a man named Steve flirts with her and they exchange numbers. On their first date, the two quickly hit it off and have sex. After several dates, Steve invites Noah for a weekend breakaway alone with him. Against the advice of her best friend Molly, Noah agrees to the trip, planning to travel early the following day. Noah spends the evening at Steve's luxury home. Steve drugs Noah's cocktail, and she falls unconscious. The beginning of the film starts with her agreeing to go on a date with this guy named Chad, and he's not the typical Chad. He is like, I guess, a Portland hipster Chad who doesn't pay for the food, takes her leftovers for his friend in town, tells her that he believes women should not wear baggy clothes and should always be in like 70s, 80s, like dresses, and he's just a teetotal prick, and that's all. So we're given that that's the type of men she's been dealing with here in Portland, and she's getting tired of it, and she's thirsty, pretty much. Steve meets her in a grocery, like they said, kind of hits it off with like a basic little back and forth flirting about cotton candy grapes. Yeah, on their first date, what it doesn't mention is that he has no social media, so that's why her friend Molly is very like, it seems like a serial killer fucking thing to do, don't do that. So, but besides that, it pretty much hit everything else as a whole correctly. So we'll jump to the next one. Noah wakes up in captivity, chained to the ground. Steve explains that he is a butcher of human meat, which he both consumes himself and sells to wealthy clients. They prefer the meat of young women, so he regularly lures and abducts women on dates. He says that he will keep Noah alive as long as possible in order to keep her meat fresh, as he surgically removes different pieces of her body. Steve allows Noah to take a shower, but she tries to escape. Steve captures her and harvests her buttocks as punishment. Noah speaks to a woman named Penny who is being held captive in an adjacent room, and Penny tells her that a woman who is singing incoherently is another victim named Melissa, who has gone insane. They don't show the title of this film till 30 minutes into the movie. So that kind of shows once again, I know I harp on pacing all the time. I'm not a filmmaker. I'm a dude who watches a lot of horror movies on YouTube, and I'm not that good at that either. So take that with what you will. The first half of that movie is extremely slow. Once again, I've said this 100 times. Just to get us comfortable with the character, even though in the plot and in a trailer it shows that that's not what this is, and this isn't going to be a major turn or reveal. So I thought it was strange. I definitely don't think it needed to be an almost 2-hour movie. An almost 2-hour movie. It's 114 minutes long. They could have cut about 20 minutes off of this and it would have been grade A, but maybe the directors had a problem with where to cut, because there's little things that Sebastian says that kind of like hint to what he might be doing. He says he's a plastic surgeon, and that kind of ties back to the other thing. So, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, he says he's going to take her ass because he can't believe her anymore. He can't trust her anymore because she tried to run away. His mannerisms in this are very, very good. But you can definitely tell he took as much from American Psycho as he could. He blasts music as he's chopping up meat in the kitchen, singing and dancing along. Like, there's a lot of scenes that are just stuff happening with music playing. Toward the end of the film, they're dancing, and you watch the whole dance with light Spanish romantic music playing in the background. Like, I don't get that part of it, but I do think the subject as a whole is fascinating, and the movie was decent, the movie was pretty good, but they definitely could have shaved some time off. 2 hours is not what you need for this. Next paragraph. Meanwhile, Molly becomes concerned about Noah's disappearance and begins investigating with her friend Paul, a bartender who served Noah and Steve drinks on their first date. After searching online, Molly discovers Steve is actually named Brendan and is married to a woman named Anne, with whom he has children. Molly visits Anne and informs her of Brendan's apparent affair. Brendan arrives but denies any knowledge of Noah when questioned by Molly. As she leaves, Molly calls Noah's phone, which begins ringing in Brendan's pocket. Anne, revealed to be Brendan's accomplice, knocks Molly unconscious. It is revealed that Anne has a prosthetic leg and was one of Brennan's victims before he fell for her. Yeah, she's pretty much just hitting up Anne brings up to Molly during like one of their workout sessions that the bartender that night that she met Steve at was one of their old friends, Paul. Paul says he really can't give up any information to Molly about his like name or credit card, but eventually she is like, I'm legit worried about my friend. She could be dead. This needs to be something that's okay. Eventually he caves, gets his real name, searches for his last name, or searches for his name on Facebook or something like that, and pops up with Anne. But yeah, it nailed it again. They're doing good. Let's do the next one. Noah gains Brendan's trust by flirting and pretending to be interested in what human meat tastes like. Brendan invites her to dinner and persuades her to taste a lavish meal containing human meat, which Noah pretends to appreciate. She later vomits in her cell. Meanwhile, Brendan takes Molly away for harvesting. Brendan invites Noah to another dinner, providing her with a pink dress as a gift. Before dinner, Brendan shows Noah a hidden compartment filled with items belonging to his victims, indicating he has abducted and murdered dozens of women before her. He feeds Noah breast meat, which Brennan hints at possibly tasting familiar. Noah recognizes Molly's phone among the stolen victims' phones. Following dinner, Noah persuades Brennan to have sex with her and let her perform fellatio on him. She instead bites off his testicles, with Brennan injured. But in pursuit, Noah helps Molly and Penny escape from their rooms. This is the first, dumb decision. She hints at the beginning of dinner that she's, trying to entice him to get drunk because she downs her first drink fine. So he's like, yeah, sure, let's get drunk, whatever. But you are a killer that has killed 12 people, harvested their meat, and suddenly you're going to sure, you're falling for her or whatever, but you're going to let a woman go down on you that you're holding prisoner. That is strange to me. Maybe alcohol's involved, but if you're this killer that does not, I don't get it. That's one thing I was really? It's things in the background that they're trying to put forward of it wouldn't be funny if they did this. Okay, but that's whatever. When they find Penny, she's missing a leg and she looks in very rough shape. We're assuming that it was Molly's breast that she ate. We're unsure. We're pretty sure when all of them are running, it literally looks like they got a reminder beforehand. Yeah, they got a reminder beforehand that these parts were taken from you, except for the girl who has to walk around with one leg. Because every time they begin to run, Noah grabs her butt cheek and Molly grabs her boob. Well, I thought that was kind of cringe, but maybe yes, it would be hurting, so yes, it would make sense. But it literally, it's like once they say rolling, the actor starts to take a couple of steps and then they reach. It was strange for me there, but that's just me nitpicking, and I've watched too many horror movies this month. That's all that really says. Let's jump to the final two. The three encounter Brendan in the kitchen and fight him, then escape into the woods with Brendan pursuing them with a gun. They manage to attack him, with Noah taking the gun and shooting Brendan dead. Anne arrives at the house and finds Brendan's body. She encounters Noah in the woods and tries to strangle her, but Noah stabs Anna in the neck with car keys as Anne recovers and attempts to strangle Noah again. Molly bludgeons Anne with a shovel. As she and Molly relax at last, Noah receives a text message from a man she went out with at the beginning of the film saying, "You up?" Apparently there was a mid-credit scene, which I did not stay for because it was an okay movie at best, so I'm not going to keep. A mid-credit scene depicts 5 of Brennan's clients in a white room seated at a table with bleeding human meat at the center. A satanic symbol is displayed during the end credits, indicating that Brendan and his clients are part of a satanic organization. But yeah, anyway, the final fight of the scene does really well. It's very tense, but there's a lot of things in this film, which I'll talk about now since we're at the end, right before we get to our scores. There's a lot of things in it that could have been cut, but it was just to show off different things that their filmmaker had in mind. Like there's lots of like sharp cuts. Whenever she eats the meat, it's like trying to show a bunch of different symbols and stuff. But if she's faking enjoying it, like it's very weird. Like I don't necessarily understand it. Maybe I'm too dumb. Happens all the time. But the fight's great. It's well choreographed. They all did fantastic. Once again, the acting I have no problem with. The acting was minus them grabbing their injuries the second and a half after the camera starts rolling. That got on my nerves, but that's just me. What else am I trying to think? What problems I had with it before we give the scores out was the pacing was a little slow because it was a 2-hour movie and it definitely could have been cut down to about 1:30, maybe, at the most bare, just to get main story points across. I think there was a lot of like flashing sequences that could have been cut out. I don't know. I think those are my main complaints with it. But like some of the music scenes were just in it. Like you can tell they put a lot of money into this film. Like I don't know what they didn't get. Yeah, they spent $20 million on the budget. I'm assuming most of it was licensing for music because it has a killer soundtrack, and I actually added it on Spotify because it's really good. But a lot of those scenes where he's literally cutting up meat and like dancing and doing his best American Psycho impersonation, they were fine to kind of like fill out the character that he feels nothing for these women that he's taking. But it's still, I don't know. Like the dance scene at the end could have been completely cut, but that's just my take on it. Anyways, let's jump to scores, shall we? I think the plot on this is fine. Like I think as a whole the movie is good. I have to look at it with a clinical eye because I have 31 of these things to fucking film. I think the plot can have an 8. I think that's good for it. I think there's definitely other things behind the scenes that they were trying to push forward of like what this means, so on and so forth. I'm not jumping into that. I'm a cisgendered white male. I have nothing to really talk about there. Let's go to scares. There were almost no scares in this film. Like I said, it definitely felt more of a thriller, and it didn't really touch a lot of what horror would be, minus the fact that there's cannibalism and meat involved. Like, it definitely leans more into thriller. Scares can have a 2 maybe, because some of the things like make you uncomfortable just a little, just like, oh, okay, he's doing that. That's fine. It's whatever. I think the threat as a whole of Steve or Brendan is good. I think the threat can have a 7. I think that's fine. Is it for newbies? No. And do I recommend it? Yeah, sure. Like it's a solid movie, but it's not a horror film, which leave no movie unreviewed this month. I have precious time. Besides that, I'm trying to think of what I would score this. Rotten Tomatoes and or IMDb have it around 6.7. Metacritic's is also a 67. Rotten Tomatoes has it a little bit higher, but as I've stated before, Rotten Tomatoes is definitely plays favorites with certain things. I think a 6 is fine for this. I think a 6 is fine for this as a horror movie, but as a movie as a whole, it could be much higher. But since we're doing horror movies this month, I think it's a 6, and I think a 6 is fine. I did enjoy it. It's a good movie, but it's not scary. So do with that what you will. Anyways, that's where I'm going to leave this one, guys. I hope you all had a great time listening to me talk about this movie. Go watch it for yourself. It's on Hulu. Tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me another movie you wish that I would review that I just haven't got to this month. We have 9 days remaining, or 8 days after today remaining. So jump in there quick. I try to reply to everybody. Take care. Stay scared. See ya.